Check.
Check, check.
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 Okay.
All right, man. Well, what do you think? What do you wanna talk about? What do you feel like we get left uncovered? Anything?
I'd say you can ask some of the same questions again.
Okay. I suppose that would make it helpful for me to write down questions.
But I feel like no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because we'll get to the heart of it. But I guess what I want to make sure is addressed is who I am, why I'm doing this. That.
You don't need me to ask.
I can just tell you, I guess.
Yeah. And you can also, you can look at me too. You don't have to look at directly at me.
Okay, yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say. When I was watching back up, I'm like, oh, you definitely are like staring down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah.
Super hard. You don't have to.
No, that'll be way better. Who I am, why I'm doing this, the vision for Godspeed, why we're doing it, how it came about, what we hope Godspeed does for the audience. And then you can ask them just like provoking questions like into what you would want to know as a consumer of the content.
Yeah.
All that.
Well, we're already rolling.
That's good.
So start with who you are. Start with who you are and what you're doing and why. You know?
Yeah. I'm Nathan Moore, a child of God, building Godspeed right now. But who am I? I think right now I'm somebody who's pursuing my relationship with Christ more aggressively than ever. And I can say that it's finally clicked. All the questions one may have as to why do you do this, how do you do it, what does it look like, that makes sense for me right now. And outside of that, who am I? I'm a competitive, driven person, extremely curious about people, why they are the way they are, how they think, what has shaped their perspective on the world, their life, their people in their life. And I feel like those stories and those viewpoints often go untold, especially in today's age of social media, where you get to see a lot of people's highlight reels. But I feel like there's a bigger picture that's being missed. And sometimes it's those hard times that got you to that highlight point. And at my church, my pastor, Pastor Chris, said there is no arrival. There is no point where you look out and say, oh, I've made it, at least not in your relationship with Christ, because you'll never make it to perfection.
Yeah.
And if that was possible, there would be no need for a relationship with Jesus. So I think with Godspeed, at a high level, ultimately, we want to highlight people who are operating in the spirit of excellence within their industry, within their field of work, within their community, within their spaces, whatever they're doing. And we want to tell their raw and honest story. Not just how they're doing so well, but what were those really tough times in your personal relationship with Jesus that transferred over into your day-to-day life, and what is the story behind that? We want you to be honest about that.
For sure.
Because when that's missing, I feel like we're missing people who are also seeking truth, and they need to know what you went through, honestly, in a raw format, because that's what's going to resonate with them.
Yeah.
And we want to do that in an extremely quality, creative way through print magazine, short film, short documentary, interview style podcast, long form writing via Substack and other ways of distribution. And we just want to reach people where they're at and put a whole new take on how somebody can present their testimony. And we want Godspeed to be the vehicle for that.
For sure. Can you do me a favor? Is your chair able to come up a little bit higher? Yeah. Way better. Okay, perfect. Okay, so what do you think, what do you see being, like you talked about a little bit about how you feel like what we're consuming on a day-to-day basis is not really like a full story of anybody, right?
Right.
So we kind of just walk around and have these sort of surface level versions of people floating around in our head. Who are you hoping to kind of like fix that in, right? Who's the person that you feel like is really your target in terms of being able to provide these more in-depth stories, testimonies, stuff like that? Like who benefits the most from that, do you feel like, at least in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. So when I was thinking about Godspeed and like who the target audience would be, of course I wanted it to be anybody, but just through my own personal experiences and conversations I was having with people in my life, it really seems like young adults ages, 18 to 40, that were not yet walking with Christ or had walked away from their relationship with Christ had some untruthful version of what it meant to walk with Christ and who God was. And I think whether it's your favorite social media influencer, athlete, celebrity, Christian or not, I think you get a certain version of them through their social media, through the news, but it's not the full story. And I think it can be really frustrating for somebody who sets out to do the same thing, is chasing after similar goals, but they keep getting met with opposition, blocks in the road, and everybody around them doesn't seem to have that happening.
Yeah.
But in reality, it absolutely happened. It's just not what you're seeing.
For sure.
And that just needs to be communicated. I feel like it's something that I've tried to be pretty honest about in my own journey. I don't post on social media all that often, weekly or maybe sometimes not even monthly. But for those I have conversation with, I never focus on like what's going well if they're asking about questions in terms of what I'm doing well, whether it's in athletics, work, some of the service work I do, or in life in general. I talk about, hey, yeah, I'm able to do these things, I'm doing these things, but before this was even possible, there was a deep transformation that occurred in me,
Yeah.
and a lot of things that people just didn't get to see to be ready to take on these things. And I think that's what needs to be communicated and made known for Godspeed's audience.
So for you personally, I think just as somebody that like knows you, I'm in community with you, we work together. But I know more about you probably than I think maybe even just in terms of like our church, maybe like the average person who sees you. I think especially in these last few months, you've been somebody who has, we see you doing like photo shoots and stuff for church. You're on like part of the welcome team, which obviously is something that is like a little bit more of, requires like an upbeat attitude, like a very like positive kind of optimistic, just demeanor in general. So I think in something like the same sense, there's like this possibility of like, well, people can see you like, and get this idea. And also knowing that you're like a very active athlete, and you know what I mean, you're running marathons around the world and stuff like that. It's definitely like there's a lot of stuff that you're up to that I think the average person is not really putting themselves to.
Right.
So in the same sense of like there's this other side that people don't get to see necessarily,
Yeah.
right? That is really the more important part.
Yes.
For you, what would you say are some of those details, or what is that place that you were in that that shows the contrast, right?
Yeah.
That's not the highlight. Like what are some of those moments for you, or even just one big moment for you that you feel like can provide that sort of depth
Yes.
of character for people that don't know you?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something these are multiple things I've really been working on, not in just becoming a better person, but becoming a person that can have closer relationship with God. And I think some of the things that people don't see, it was a mix of pride, selfishness, and control. Those are like the top three that come to mind when I think of the things that I've had to overcome and still work to overcome. And I'm not sitting here saying like I'm this ultra self-righteous person, but there was definitely some ways I was behaving in relationship and in my life that were not complimentary of the person I was saying I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And so for me, what that really looked like, it was this performative mindset that the more I was doing, the more God was going to bless me.
For sure.
The better I was in my workplace, in my relationships, athletically, in my communities, God was going to hold me and give me bigger platform, more favor, and in my mind, I was making him proud, and he was going to give me some sense of approval for that. And it was just a complete false narrative that even though I knew I couldn't earn God's love, I think just coming up and still being an athlete, you have a performance-driven mindset because if you produce, you're going to play.
For sure.
And I think just some ignorance in who God was and pure just spiritual and just normal immaturity, I got caught up in that. And when paired with a relentless work ethic and this ambition to succeed, it turned into a really ugly thing that drove me to burnout, just self-frustration, being overly critical of myself and sometimes those around me because we weren't performing or I wasn't performing at this standard of perfection. And I think that would cause me to be closed off in a lot of relationships, cause my own self-talk to be not that positive. And I think when you find yourself in that, you close yourself off to the people around you because you're solely focused on improving whatever it is you're working on, and not in a good way. And like it just came to a moment where I think I was making people close to me nervous about like, what are you going through? Like, and I couldn't even pinpoint it.
Right.
And it just wasn't until I think I had heard somebody close to me through something I had said. And it was in that moment, I think like, that's when I felt God speak, and he was just like, what are you doing? Look what you're becoming. For the sake of what you don't even know, this idea of perfection you don't know how to achieve, and you'll never achieve because it's not possible. And I heard that very clearly, and that it shook me to my core. Obviously, hurting that person was terrible, and it was like a sobering moment where I was able to look myself in the mirror and say, hey, if you don't come back home to what's true, you're going to spend your your young adult life and potentially the rest of your life, chasing something that's not obtainable, and that becoming a person that you hate.
For sure. And in the grander like scheme of your journey with God, where is this before you decided that this was going to be a serious part of your life, or is this sort of like after you made the decision but you still had to kind of like work out, still had some heart posture things to work out?
Talking about Godspeed?
Not Godspeed, I'm talking about the story that you're telling right now, like this kind of like this realization, what I think we could call it like an inflection point, right? Like this is kind of a moment where things could either go one of two ways. Where in like your journey is that, like how far into your journey would you say that this is? Like, is this recent?
This is almost 2 years ago.
Okay, so that's still pretty recent.
Yeah, still very recent. Yeah, and I'd say it was a tipping point. It was a tipping point that made me aware, and I just don't think I was maybe new to church in Chicago. In December it'll be 3 years living here, so I was like maybe just going to People Church or not there yet.
Okay.
But yeah, it was right around then, and looking back, and I think if I had spirit-minded people and Christ-centered people in my life that saw me like that, they would raise concerns, and that did happen when I dove into community at People Church. I got a lot of heart checks. I had people with genuine interest just saying, "Hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
And what does it mean to you?" And it was just through genuine conversation that I was able to. It was God speaking through those people where I was able to realize some things and start this journey of growth. And since then, it's just been this beautiful thing that I've now fully leaned into and feel like I'm made new.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, I got to join.
You got to do your thing. Okay. All right, where were we at?
For me personally, what were some of the things that you felt, maybe as one of my closer people, that people aren't getting a look into or may not know about me that brought me to this point?
Right. Yeah, you said that you hurt somebody's feelings and you realized you weren't the Christian you thought you were.
Exactly.
Okay. So what were some of what changed after that point? Like what, not necessarily from a mindset perspective, even just like practical, like what changed about your day-to-day life after that?
Yeah, I think it was in part like a big realization that I was becoming somebody that I didn't like. And I was becoming somebody that wasn't going to achieve the things I wanted to achieve in life. And then after realizing that, I had a lot of work to do within myself that I didn't know how to do. And the only way I was going to come to truth was like getting back to Jesus.
Yeah.
And then from there, like being a person that wants to like be ambitious for godly things and set out to do these things, like it was a sobering moment when you look yourself in the mirror and say, "Oh, I have no idea how to do that," and everything I've been telling myself that I can do it. Like I had to be honest that I had no idea how. And then even on top of that, some of the things I wanted were just not meant for me. So even if I was achieving things and getting these things that I had set out for, once I had them, still left unfulfilled, didn't really make a difference.
Yeah.
Chasing something else right after I got something. And I was like, God, I don't want to keep doing this.
Right.
Show me like what will fulfill me, and that's going to be you, of course. And I think that's important to distinguish, that God didn't allow me to maybe like step into a specific calling or certain areas before my heart wasn't solely focused on him. Because even in the things I'm doing now through Godspeed, through this, it's not to create some super cool digital and print media company. No, it's to carry out what he's put on my heart, and be obedient to that, and to continually seek him through this and seek his people. So Christ had to become my center for all things. And pursuing him out of pure love rather than what I can get from the world. I used to like use God. Now I'm like, please use me. And I'm content with you alone.
How do you feel like that's affected your relationship with achievement and ambition? Because I know you're a very driven, competitive person too. How do you tell me a little bit about that?
I think it reframed like what I was going after. It changed. It changed everything in terms of like what I was pursuing and why. So like as I changed, like things just naturally fell off of me that I was pursuing. Like I no longer had an interest in those things because they were hollow. They were shallow things that didn't mean anything. So that felt nice because you feel light. You're no longer making yourself a slave to something that has nothing for you. But it doesn't take away like the burning desire to be ambitious. Like I think that's just naturally how God made me in some ways. Like he wants me to be this fierce, aggressive, in a good way, ambitious for godly things person. That's bold, willing to be outspoken, take a step of faith. I haven't lost that at all, but now it's aimed at anything he wants for me. So, and I think personally what I can do is read my Bible every day, serve my local church, serve my relationships and the people that I know that I can impart something to get closer to the kingdom and to closer to Jesus. Those are things I can control. How much time I'm spending with the Lord and how much I'm praying or talking to him throughout my day, like that's something I can do. And then as far as like larger life goals or like career pursuits or how big I want Godspeed to be, that's something I just hand over to him. Because you also limit God when you put your human touch to the things you're working on. And I think that's something important for people to hear. Like you can have these grand ideas, but do you really think you're going to do it bigger and better than the creator of all? And I just had to accept that too.
So, I'm trying to think. What can we talk about that we haven't talked about?
This may be the vision for Godspeed as a whole and where we're at right now versus where we hope to be.
Where do you hope to be?
I hope to be a global company. A powerhouse. Like small beginnings. Like we got to focus one thing at a time. But at the heart of it, like we want to be a company that's not just highlighting people in Chicago or people like I know in my network and community. But we would love to have a Godspeed Tokyo and letting them tell their story about what the Christian faith looks like in Asia. Godspeed Africa, Godspeed Europe. We would love to tell a global story and what it looks like to walk with Christ through a different cultural lens, but the same faith. I think that would be beautiful, and I think the outlets we choose and platforms we choose to do that will only grow. So of course, right now we're trying to tackle short and long form writing. We'll do interviews, podcasts. We have the idea for a print magazine that'll highlight these people that are operating in excellence within their respective field. But we would also love to branch out into education. Yeah. What if the people we're highlighting want to give something back to their community, and Godspeed can be the vehicle to do that. Whether that's one-on-one coaching, conferences, roundtables, in-person events. We don't want to limit anything, and I think, God says multiply and be fruitful, and He's got the wheel on this and the accelerator. I'm just here to keep up and do the work.
Do you see yourself prioritizing or focusing a lot through the lens of athletics in terms of like the people who you sort of like kind of tell these stories to? Do you think that that's something is that even something that like occurred to you, or is that, because I know some of the things that we've talked about have kind of been like people who are centered, maybe not necessarily on just athletics, so to speak, but like even one of the ideas being like sport, you know what I mean? These people who are kind of engaged in something that is like, well, we talked about one that was like this guy who's a hunter, right? Yeah. Is there a part of you that is leaning towards making that like a?
I think it'll be like, I'm naturally inclined to go that way, but like I do want to be super careful and not limit who we highlight. Yeah. Because like the big point of it is like, yes, I'm an athlete, but that's not, we don't want to limit Godspeed to like focusing on highlighting people who are like pursuing athletics in some form or pursuing the outdoors. It's going to be creatives. It's going to be quote unquote like an average normal person whose goal may to become CEO through a corporate career. It could be a school teachers. Right. We're not so much focused on the area or a certain industry or spaces, but really praying and allowing God to highlight, hey, this person's story needs to be told. Yeah. Regardless of what they do, they have a story, and there are people who need to hear it. So allowing God just to make the decision on which of His children He wants to highlight through Godspeed. That'll be prayer, lots and lots of prayer, because I think that's going to be a staple. I think that's a good transition of like how I'm kind of guiding the direction of Godspeed. And I think that kind of is also a good transition in like how Godspeed came to be, like how it just was an idea. Because I'm somebody who has like a lot of good ideas. I think they're good, like some every day. So I love to ideate, but I won't take action on all of them, or maybe I'll give them to somebody else who I know will be a better steward of them than me. Yeah. But I think I was, throughout the past 3 years and after, I'd say once I became obedient in like the basics, like I had dropped like my obvious sin and like allowed God to do a lot of hard work, and then He was now like has me in this position of like, all right, I'm pretty focused, very focused on growing my faith. Now He has allowed me to start to ask questions and receive answers about maybe more specific things, in terms of like, hey, yes, we can like understand your gifts now and how you're going to use them, because now you're actually being obedient about the basics. So once I got to this point, I was praying for vision and dreams, and I watched a sermon by Miles Monroe titled "Why Men Need Vision and Dreams." Shout out Jarius Brookins, who sent that to me. And my mind was just opened, long story short, through the sermon. And I had realized, okay, I've been praying for I knew my purpose was to build kingdom. That's all of our purpose, is to go and make new believers and to just share the gospel, share the good news. I knew that was my larger purpose, but I was like really probably annoying God and asking him, hey, like, what does this look like through a specific calling, and how am I meant to do this, at least in this season of my life? And there was things I was already involved in. He was like, you need to steward these well before I give you anything else. So once I did that, he woke me up through a dream at like 4 a.m. one night, and I could not go back to sleep for the life of me. I didn't really think much of it. This dream was just weird. Like it looked like I was driving my car, spun out, crashed into a gas station, the car slipped on what looked like olive oil. And then the store owners told me it's going to be $1,975 for the repairs. And then he was like, actually scratch that, make it $2,000. And I woke up, couldn't go back to sleep. So I just started my day at like 4:30 a.m. Did my reading, was reading the book of John, started journaling, started praying. And it was not 5 minutes after I finished that this vision for Godspeed was downloaded to my brain. And like, I knew it was God because I experienced this feeling or this moment once before in my life where it was undoubtedly the Holy Spirit like smacking me in the face and saying, move on this. And it was the same exact thing. So I knew it was God, and I was just kind of like, okay. I wrote down like everything that was downloaded to my brain. And I was like, whoa, like this is never something that I think I would naturally pursue myself. I just sat on it, I called my mom, told her about it, talked to my girlfriend Haley about it. And then I just sat there and thought for a while. And this had come at a time after I was laid off from my job. And in this time, I was seeking God more than ever because I had so much more time on my hands, and it was really nice. And I was like, whoa, okay. At the core of this, it is God's people. That is what I love, like more than anything. Like I'm a purpose-driven and people-driven person, but the form and vehicle of like how we're getting these people's stories out there is not naturally something like how I would do it. I've never explored other than writing like a creative outlet. So photography, videography, and like I had an idea of how to start Godspeed, and that's what we're doing now. But I knew I was going to have to bring in people who were excellent in their craft to help me do this. Yeah. So it was super interesting just how Godspeed came to be. Not naturally something I would probably pick up and do myself, but he's still fulfilling a desire in my heart, which is to reach and know as many people as possible and just be this guy that loves people, community, and being a leader. That's being fulfilled, but how we do that is brand new to me, which is amazing. And then I think I've already forgot what else I was going to tie that to. We transitioned to like how Godspeed came to be, and then I think that's it.
Yeah, I was like, we have a whole other hour too of stuff that we've already recorded. I do want to ask, do you feel like I don't know if you've always had I guess I'll just speak for myself, that the concept of ministry is something that's fairly new to me. But do you feel like understanding that concept has changed the way that you also understand the idea of business?
Great question. I guess like in two parts. Did I ever see myself like in ministry? No. Right. But I also had the wrong definition of ministry. Right. I thought I had to be the preacher, build a church. I was just like, I don't even know how I would do that. Am I a person that can do that based on just like the life I was living at that time? Probably not. But now my understanding of ministry is like God's not going to wait for you to build kingdom. Like as soon as you give your life over, he's not. You'll find out what your ministry is in that season at least very quickly, if you're allowing God to use you. So I think sitting where I am now, I'm more open to it than ever. Like of God, like show me what my ministry is, not only just in this season, but for my life. Yeah. And like, I don't have a preference on what it's going to be, because I know whatever you place me in is what I'm going to be good at. And I think it's so interesting because like we all think we know ourselves better than God at some point in our lives. But I think the realization and what clicked for me was like, God's never going to put me somewhere in a calling or in a position or like walk me into a season of life or a job or anything like that that I'm not going to be great at. It may not be easy getting to that point. I may need help. I may be stretched. It may be difficult. But what he sets us out to do, it's what's best for us. And whether that's making us to be the person we need to be for our ultimate calling, or like he just knows you, he naturally created you to excel in that environment. I've given that up to God. So like what my ministry looks like is totally up to him. And like I couldn't sit here and say I know in 10 years, 20, 30, 40 years what my ministry and how I would define it is. But I have ideas. But it's something that like I want to be careful with and be like, God, do what you want to do. I'm here to be obedient.
Beautiful. Anything else that you want to add? Anything, other details that you feel like might be important for people to know about you or about what's coming next?
Yeah, what's coming next? Nicholas is going to do a fantastic job at finishing this thing. This will be included in the launch of Godspeed, and just know I'm working on it. Like as a team, it's me and then other people I bring in, and I want to do this all the time. Like I'm in love with this process, and it's stretching me and growing me in ways that I'm super grateful for, because there's skills I want to build, and it's happening. But I want to relentlessly pursue this and put out an amazing, amazing product. Okay. For anybody that's interested, and feel free to reach out, give us feedback, like let us know like what you feel like you're missing when you go to hear somebody's testimony. If you're hearing it through a digital format or you're reading about somebody, like if you walk away and you feel inspired, we want to know exactly like what made you feel inspired, or what through that vehicle helped it resonate with you. So I may send out a survey to like a group of people to get their feedback on like how they think the different formats we deliver the news through would resonate well with the general audience. But no, I'm extremely excited to see where this goes, and please stay tuned, stay along for the journey, and I'll be rolling out some stuff, also documenting the journey of building Godspeed, because we want you to be able to see that story.
Amen. Okay.
Awesome.
I think we're good.
Thank you.
No problem.